brains.
Dan Fallosha, yum.
The darkened air, the sickened stare, you better start running. The death inside, the instincts arise from basic motor function. These words to heed, the need to feed, the apocalypse is coming. To survive, you must pry past your human emotion. For in surviving, your human side dies and you become one with your demons. As the blood spreads, as you chop off their heads, you become no better than the zombie. The apocalypse is coming. Okay? We need to prepare for it. If you can't tell, I like zombies a lot. I have a whole collection of things at my feet that I want to show and explain to you about. But first, I want to read something from The Walking Dead. It's an introduction that the guy wrote. I'm not trying to scare anybody. If that somehow happens as a result of reading this comic, that's great. But really, that's not what this book is about. What you now hold in your hands is the most serious piece of work I've done so far in my career. I'm the guy that created Battle Pulp. I hope you guys realize what a stretch this is for me. It's really not that hard to believe when you realize that I'm delving into subject matter that is so utterly serious and dramatic. Zombies. To me, the best zombie movies aren't the splatterfests of gore and violence with goofy characters and tongue-in-cheek antics. Good zombie movies show us how messed up we are, and they make us question our station in society, and our society's station in the world. They show us gore and violence and all that cool stuff too, but there's always an undercurrent of social commentary and thoughtfulness. I mean, some movies that have cheap scares are good, but the really good zombie movies are the ones that actually question our place in society and everything like that. They make us think about things in real life rather than zombies. So, I just wanted to talk about zombies a bit because, like I said, the apocalypse is coming. And there's a couple of names you should know. Well, actually, only one name you really need to know, and that is George Romero. George Romero is like the king of zombies. He's like the father of zombies and everything else. And you may wonder why that is, but that's because he's one of the people that made Night of the Living Dead, which is a movie in black and white from the 60s that sort of revived the whole zombie thing, and that really was popular, which that movie's actually now public domain because of a little bit of an error that he made. But ever since then, he's made more movies, including Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, both which have remakes, and I think possibly multiple remakes. And then he has the newer movies, like Land of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, and Diary of the Dead. These are the new ones from the 21st century. From the new millennia. And he is pretty much, he inspired so much stuff. Like, he played a big influence on influencing Resident Evil. I also have some other movies that are inspired by George Romero or in the zombie genre. Well, like, here's the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which this wasn't actually directed by George Romero, but it's a remake of the original. And then he also has there's a remake called Day of the Dead, The Need to Feed, which it's not that great of a movie, but it's a remake of George Romero's movie. And then they decided to make a comedy called Shaun of the Dead, which is a comedy about zombies. And there's actually a comment by George Romero on the front called An Absolute Blast. George A. Romero, director of Dawn of the Dead. So, that goes back to this movie, but the original, not this movie. Well, here's a couple more things. Zombieland, which is a comedy about zombies. And then there's 28 Days Later, and 28 Weeks Later, which is the sequel to 28 Days Later. But there's just all this zombie stuff. It's kind of interesting. Brains.